Hello and welcome to Stage Matters, the podcast that gets right into the heart of what happens when artists take the stage. I'm your host, Aravind Murli, and it's great to have you with me. On this podcast, we are cutting through the noise to understand the true essence of what makes a performance soar, what challenges performers face, and how they consistently deliver those transcendent moments. I'll be chatting with amazing artists and performers, from seasoned veterans to rising stars, to hear their stories directly. We'll discuss the highs, the lows, the techniques, and the mindset that defines their approach to performance. If you ever wondered what it truly feels like to command a stage or what goes into those breathtaking artistic moments, you're in the right place. Let's pull back the curtain and dive into Stage Matters. My next guest is a singer who has graced jazz and pop stages. She's also done work in theatre as well as film. I'd like to welcome the incredibly talented Sharanya Gopinath. Hi Sharanya and welcome.
Hi Aravind, thank you.
Thank you for talking to me. So how did it all begin for you getting on stage? Do you remember your first experience?
I think I was very fortunate to have people around me that somehow felt that, okay, let's put this child on stage. And
how old were you?
I think there are pictures of me being on stage with larger groups, of course, in maybe when I was 3 in preschool. Okay, and for a solo performance, I think there was... There's a picture of me when I was maybe 4 singing the national anthem in front of the school. So
child prodigy.
Not really. I think maybe I was just I think I don't ever remember being afraid of being on stage. So maybe that's maybe I didn't even realize what was going on, and probably the people around me said, okay, this child is not crying when put in front of a mic, let's just put her there. Yeah.
Okay. Do you recall any performance that you saw and then got blown away when you were young and said, this is like what I want to do?
Yes, definitely. There are lots of musical performances, drama and theatre performances that have really blown my mind. But I think one that really changed my perspective and understanding was this Theiyum performance, interestingly, which I had the honor and privilege of immersing myself in, and that really switched my perspective on what the power and potential that a performer has. So what happens in a Theiyum performance is that really an ordinary person steps into a spiritual realm almost, right? And they take on almost supernatural powers, like walking over fire or even carrying the weight of the costume, is all something that comes because of that switch into the performance zone, which is almost like a trance.
Yeah.
And for both the performer and the audience, it becomes almost like that journey into something that's away from reality and the natural, the ordinary, right? And that then gives the performer such power to carry messages of hope or peace or even healing. And to see so many people who come from far distances with struggles and troubles, and then to go away with transformation, right? With a message of hope. And that, I think, really switched my understanding of what a performance could do.
So since you brought up the spiritual zone, I'll jump right there. Do you think there is something beyond like just skill and technique in a performance?
Definitely. I think it's the ideal state when one goes into that phase of not really thinking, oh, what am I doing something wrong? Am I doing something right? What is my next line going to be? Or what am I going to do in the next moment? Or even lingering on the previous moment, right? That is what I try and aspire to go through in every performance. So that state of, I think trance is the best word for me that describes it, right? So definitely it's something spiritual where maybe while you're practicing, maybe while you're even hearing a piece for the first time, you think this is beyond my ability. But sometimes it just happens in the performance, right? You might have been sick, but then somehow in that performance zone, things that didn't happen earlier might end up happening. And I don't see any other explanation for it than a spiritual experience. Yeah.
Great. How has your understanding of performing evolved from when you began to now?
So again, as a child, I think it was It was just something that somebody told you to do. You went up there on stage, you learnt your part. I went up there and did it. And then, of course, there was a lot of validation because everybody would appreciate you. And I think that sort of became addictive in a way, right? That validation became addictive. But then over time, you also started enjoying the process, the rehearsals towards it, the people that you would meet, the whole celebration after, before. So that entire process became something that I started looking forward to. And there were phases where it was also competitive, right? Where you go for these college fests, for instance, and then you think of the performance as, oh, I have to show my best technical ability and I have to, what can I do to impress? But then from there, I think it's even then, I'm happy to say that it's evolved for me at least into a more soul-searching, more what it makes me feel as an individual, even if there was nobody else around, right? And then I think the understanding of performance beyond a stage, that even something that you do in a studio, right? And it's not necessarily a song. It could be, say, an audiobook that I'm narrating or a play that I'm in. All of these are performances, right?
Absolutely.
And sometimes maybe I could even perform for myself, like without an audience. So I think all of these different phases are segments of experience that I've been through, and I'm glad for all of them. I hope to discover more through the experience of evolving as an artist.
Wonderful. So can you take me through your preparation process?
Yes, definitely. So depending on the kind of performance, right? If it were, I recall there was a certain play that I was a part of which demanded singing while a lot of movement was also in place. So which means that it required a certain amount of physical stamina. So I'm not somebody who really enjoys exercising or working out. But then that gave me a motivation to prepare myself to be able to do these multiple things simultaneously. Right? And so for any performance, depending on what it demands, I enjoy that process of preparing for it, right? It could be practicing a certain set of vocal warm-ups or vocal runs, or being really sure of the piece itself or the performance material itself, so that on stage you're not, or in that performance moment, you're not really worrying about that material itself, but focus more on feeling it and sharing it with the audience in that moment of time.
So these things you do on the day of the show or the day before, or?
Several days before, right? So on the day, it's usually, I also try to recreate the performance setup as much as possible. I mean, it could be the shoes or the props that you're wearing or anything, just to make everything as...
Like visualization, like...
Visualization, and as much as possible even use these things in practice so that you're not worrying about it. It's not alien in that moment of performance, right? So that's about, I think, preparing for any performance.
What do you have, like some kind of diet?
Oh no, not at all.
Or something you won't eat before a show, or you won't drink before a show?
I think I try to drink a lot of water. So I'm not, I don't think I'm very technical in that sense of, there are certain foods that I avoid, or I try to eat well and not overeat.
Not be hungry.
Not be hungry, yes. But very often in a performance, you don't really think about your hunger, because if you're immersed in the moment, and then it hits you later. But just for stamina and just for... to pull through that performance, try to be comfortable.
Do you have certain things you look for when you go for a sound check?
For a sound check, so I try and make sure that, so I'm one of those people that goes to a sound check thinking that I will give my best from my own body, and then I'm going to trust the sound engineer, because I'm not going to get into like, I don't think that part of the audience can hear it, or because from where I stand, I just need to be able to hear myself, and as long as I'm comfortable with all of the other components that I need to hear, I'm happy. So even with regard to how much how much reverb or how I would trust the sound engineer completely, because they, from where they stand, know the space best.
Okay. What role does improvisation play in your work?
I think improvisation fascinates me a lot, and I think many things is one of the bands that I really look up to in terms of how we are able to so spontaneously and comfortably improvise. It's also a very challenging area for me, because there's always a question of how much space do I give the other person? Am I speaking too much? Am I am I responding enough? Am I complimenting the other person enough? So these are things that I'm still trying to overcome and work around. It's because it's almost like a conversation, right? Where two or more people are talking, and then you want to make that conversation so interesting for the people who are listening also to be a part of. And in cases like, I guess, Jacob Collier, where you're also able to make them a part of that conversation. So I try to improvise, definitely, and there is preparation that goes into it. So I try and play with certain parts of the piece, whether it is spoken or sung, to try and see what I can do differently. And it could be lyrical, it could be musical, it could also be theatric or physical, right? So these are things that I try and play with as part of preparation. And then on the day, of course, the space that you're in and the moment contributes so much to how you improvise. So yes, it's a bit of a scary space, but also a place that thrills me. I definitely try and make as much room as possible for improvisation while performing. Yeah.
Okay, brilliant. How much rehearsal do you like to do? Is there something like too much rehearsal you feel?
No, I don't think I've ever felt that there's been too much rehearsal. Most of the time, you wish there was more time.
Okay.
But I guess that's just me, because I also enjoy that process of rehearsal with the people who are a part of it, right? So maybe because I enjoy that time too much, I don't feel like it's too much rehearsal.
But there would have been surely instances where you're in groups of people where you can't stand each other also, no? Well, sometimes it could happen.
Maybe. But nothing comes to mind like that, because I think always the material takes precedence.
Okay.
There are indeed reasons where sometimes you're fed up with with a certain gig that you took on and you wonder, why did I even take this on? That does happen. Okay, so maybe you're right. Sometimes that could happen. Yeah.
Okay. Lots of things can go wrong during a show.
Yes.
How do you deal with it? Mistakes or something in the auditorium, some light went off, mic went off.
I think the one principle that all of us performers agree by is the show must go on, right? There have been instances when I think a bandmate's guitar string has broken, but he's kept playing. Or sometimes when maybe your monitors don't work or whatever, but you still keep going on. And sometimes I think it also works in your favor when you've not really planned it. I think there was one instance where I was a little ambitious with a piece that I'd practiced to play and sing on the keyboard, and then I turn up and then it doesn't usually happen, but my fingers froze. I just couldn't play.
Okay.
And I thought, I stopped and I said, see, my fingers are just not moving, but I'm going to sing it.
You told the audience?
I told the audience. Okay. It was a setting that allowed for it, right?
Okay.
And they just started clapping along. And it turned the performance into something else. And I think I also felt a lot more connected to the audience, because it felt like we were performing together versus me just performing to them. So that's a moment that turned into something that it could have been a failure, but it turned into something that was beautiful in a different sense.
Okay. Great. How does your identity or your personal history inform your performance?
I think that's also something that's evolving. If you ask me, every individual goes through various identities, and it's like they say, right? Every time you read a book, depending on where you are in life, or even watch a movie or listen to a song, you may feel different feelings, right? And I think that's the same with my own identity as a performer. There are songs that maybe I would have loved to do at a certain age, which I might cringe about now.
Yeah.
Or maybe songs that I have not connected to earlier, but because life has thrown certain experiences at me, now I feel more connected and more, a certain line might mean something to me even more now. Yeah.
So, do these things like affect the way you perform on stage, or it's just the choice of song?
I think it does affect the way I would perform on stage. For instance, maybe there's a certain line that I might have belted and sung at a certain point in time, right? It might have been a very joyful line. I might have sung it that way. But today, maybe that line gives me a different meaning and I might choose to sing it soft. Maybe I was earlier putting on an act to bring a certain line forward. But now I truly understand what it means. And maybe I speak it, maybe I whisper it. So I think that changes.
Okay. So what is your relationship with the audience? What role do they have a role to play? Do you think they have a responsibility even?
Definitely.
Okay.
I think in a performance, the performer is only one part of the equation. The audience and the performer play a collective role in enabling that entire experience for everyone, right? So in a live performance, for instance, you have maybe somebody singing along and you hear them, or maybe they're smiling at you.
Fine.
And all of that, I think, contributes to what you bring to the performance as a performer. So there is something called audience etiquette as well, I guess, where, simple things like they say, put your phone on silent and all of that, right? So that respect for the performer and respect for the audience as well, both come together in bringing that performance to life.
What is your expectation of a promoter or an organizer of a show?
Pay the artist on time.
Of course.
Yeah, but it's sad that I had to call that out. But pay the artist on time, rather like stick to what you've agreed on and be fair to the performer. There was a recent instance where a friend of mine was very excited because one of her independent songs was going to be put on vinyl and they just got the credits wrong. So there were 200 copies of this particular vinyl printed, and I think the credits didn't even have her name right. So just the basics, I think, getting these things right, treating the artist beyond a money-making machine, if you will, right? To respect what they bring as the art itself, and just think about the fact that this person's gone through so much training and preparation, and it's not easy to put music out, right? Whether it's your original music or even if you're performing covers or anything, right? It takes a lot to be a performer. And I think the only thing that I would expect for a promoter or an organizer is to respect that, and I think everything else then follows.
What do you think about, what's your opinion on stage persona, appearances, and showmanship? What is the role? How important is it for you?
It is important. It is important because it plays a role as a tool towards that, creating that experience. So whether it is a prop or a costume or a certain avatar that you take, I think all of that helps to create that. If it helps to create the experience that you are taking your audience with you, then it definitely plays a role.
Brilliant.
In fact, I think there are...
So you like to fully dress up?
Yes, for that character, for that. There have been instances where you perform as yourself, and that's fine too. But just being intentional about...
I think that's a good word.
Yeah, about how you want to... What's the character that you want your audience to see you as, right? In fact, I've heard of... I've not done it myself, but I've heard of this one singer who was doing a certain cabaret number, and then she dressed up in costume while singing in the studio, just to feel that character, right? Because that's another sort of power that performance gives you, to take on these different characters. And sometimes the costume or what you're wearing or it's almost like method acting, right? Where you try and put yourself literally in the shoes of that character and imagine what they've been through before or after, or what shapes their beliefs and thoughts. I think anything that helps with this, creating this drama helps.
Actually, like a couple of my guests have said that we're only acting on stage.
Right.
Yeah. What is the most challenging aspect of performance for you?
Okay, I have to think about this a little, because I think one is indeed improvisation, right? And breaking away from that point of thinking, oh, am I doing this right? Or am I, should I be doing this? That's something I struggle with. Right? And I'm trying to, and I feel that it maybe gets better with time and practice.
Has it gotten better?
It has.
Already? Oh.
It has gotten better. It's because sometimes you feel that, oh no, I'm put in this situation where there are musicians who are far more experienced than me. It's maybe a bit of imposter syndrome also, right? Of feeling that, do I really deserve to be here? Am I? It's a mixture of like gratitude of and awe of being in that space, being able to. It's that pressure that you put on yourself to make that big picture or make that outcome sound the best, right? So I think that is one challenging aspect of performance for me. But it's not something that I am averse to. I like that that challenge.
Tension.
I like that tension because I think it puts you in that putting yourself in that uncomfortable place. Really makes you come out better, I think. Yeah, so that's...
if it's too easy, then it's not fun.
Yeah, it's not fun. So that's one challenging bit. And the other, I think, is especially when you're performing for a setup where there are certain expectations around the audience has to dance or you have to entertain. Sure, I mean, you come prepared with a certain repertoire, you come prepared with a certain set list, and then there is a lack of... I think the audience expects something else. I guess many of us have been in that situation where where the brief is something and then there are maybe 2 or 3 people in that almost like a Chinese whisper sequence, and then by the time the brief comes to you it's something, but then you reach your audience and then they're expecting something else completely different.
So that's tough,
So I think that goes back to probably the role of the organizer or the promoter. To
tell clearly what the situation is.
Yes, to know your audience, really.
Yeah. Do you think promoter has a role in bringing in the audience as well? Because nowadays, like the artist, they put the onus on the artist all the time to even bring in the crowds, if it's like your own show.
If you ask me, I think that the onus should be on the organizer because... so I also work in branding and communications, and I feel that it's always easier to brand somebody else, to promote somebody else versus promote yourself. Yeah, right.
Like I struggle with self-promotion. I don't Precisely. Like it at all. Yeah. And
especially when people say you should support my music. Like, why should anybody support my music? If they want to listen to it, they will. Yeah. Right. And I don't. And I feel like it's also a bit demeaning to the artist, right, to say that. You have to support them because they are making music. Yeah. So, in one line, I think the onus should be on the promoter or the organizer.
Is there something in this whole performance thing that you don't like?
Yes, I think it is this bit about promotion.
Okay.
It's inevitable. It's necessary, but. It's the bit that I don't like. Yeah. I remember one of my bosses, someone that I really admire, she used to say that in any job you do, there's probably that 20-30% that you don't like. Yeah. If you like 70%, you're lucky. So I think maybe with being a professional musician, full-time musician, this falls into that 20-30%, I guess. Okay. Yeah.
You were speaking that you have another job in branding and marketing. So you're not like totally dependent on performing and music for your income.
That's right, yes.
But lots of people are, and it's a constant struggle. Would you have any kind of tips or advice to people?
I'm definitely not in a position to advise or give tips, but I don't think there is one formula or one right answer to this, right? Because I have never done music full time. I've always had another job. And there have been phases when other people have told me, hey, but if you quit your full-time job, you could be doing much better at music. If you could be realizing your potential much more. And I've also gone through that myself, but I've never taken that plunge and done music alone. And in retrospect, I feel like I'm now comfortable with that choice. I'm content with the choice that I've made to rely on something else for my bread and butter. And
music for the cheese.
Cheese, I think Johann Chaco says, dentistry is my bread and butter and music's my jam. Yeah. Okay. So, and that kind of resonates with me. It works for me. It need not work for everybody. And I know I've been through phases where I felt like, oh, I'm a coward for not doing music full time, or I'm not courageous enough to do it, and hence I haven't. But now I'm at a place where I feel that one is not lesser than the other, because even as a musician, right, you need to do multiple things to survive. To survive, right? Yeah. It could be teaching. It could be producing. It could be different things, right? Yeah. But having a career in performance alone is I won't say it's impossible, but it's a chance to take.
Very difficult.
It's difficult. It's difficult, and I have not walked that path, so I don't know.
Okay. Have you felt any particular challenges being a female artist? Anything like safety or some kind of bias?
I haven't personally faced a bias as such. Of course, there are these unnecessary, unpleasant questions on what will you wear, and that happens sometimes. That happens. But I also, I have been asked something. But I feel like male artists also get probably asked this question, and sometimes it's a relevant question because
for the
brand
occasion,
but that aside, yes, there have still been a couple of unwarranted, unnecessary instances of the expectation for a female artist to be dressed a certain way. That's maybe in the bias part, and I think sometimes there's also the unnecessary requirement for the artist to be female.
I've heard this. When
it could, if you genuinely want the artist there for the music, then it could be anyone, right? Yeah. So that's with that. And in terms of safety, yes, there's always the worry, right? Of how will I get home, or will I get home safe after a performance? So I think I definitely think about, okay, what is my route back, or what is my means back home? So it is definitely something that I think about.
But you have a plan for it always.
I try and be prepared for it. There have been surprises, and I think because of the news that we hear and constantly, right? Not only as, I think this applies outside of music as well, right? Not just as an artist, wherever we go.
But I think as an artist and as performer, we are there late hours.
Yes, indeed.
Very often. So, what is your experience with external stimulants, alcohol, drugs? I don't know. Do you have a relationship with it? Do you have other performers who have abused it on stage and create? Do you have any opinions?
So I've worked with a spectrum of musicians. I personally am not never under the influence during a performance, and I have had other people who have been under the influence or not, and sometimes it's not gone great, but most times the musicians that I work with are able to be under control of what they bring to the table at that point. They're professional about it.
So you have not had any untoward incident?
There have been a couple. Yes, there have been a couple of extended solos maybe, or solos where they were not supposed to be solos, or unnecessary parts that came out of nowhere. That's happened, yes.
What do you think is the unique aspect of a live performance that can never be captured in a recorded medium?
There's a lot. There's a lot of the exchanges that
I
happen.
think this is important for people to know.
So there was a whole phase, right, during COVID when I'm sure all of us were asked to do these Zoom performances.
Online,
Set up a green screen, set up a mic. And then I look back on those performances and I feel like, why is this so unnecessarily like dramatic?
Yeah.
Because you're trying to imagine that audience there. You're trying to create a sense of, okay, you're trying to imagine what their expressions would be. And I don't think it ever comes close, right? Because while you're performing on stage, maybe there's a child that waves at you, or maybe there's an old lady that's smiling, and that does something to you as a performer, right? Just being able to see them and feel their feelings together, right? So and that definitely cannot be recreated in any form of virtual reality or anything. Yeah, so I think nothing takes away from a live performance, even for the audience, right? It is a whole experience to plan an evening out and say that, I'm going for this concert together with my friends. And sometimes that experience, the way they experience that performance also is different because they're experiencing it with a certain group of people. They're probably reliving certain moments, maybe their school days together. And they're here and there when they're 60, and then they've heard these songs when they were much younger. So that whole spectrum of emotions that you're going through with memory and all of that definitely doesn't happen in a recorded performance.
What do you think is the role of live performance and human live performance going forward in the future? Because we're living in a world which is dominated by increased digitization and AI, and people who think that 15-second Instagram performances are the real deal.
So for me, I think the performance is beyond that time on stage alone, right? It is the time that you spend backstage. It is the time that you spend carrying your gear together and coming to the performance. So all of that is what I value and feel joy in a performance, right? Even the post gig hang or all of that brings me joy. So if you I think it's all about human connections, and there's no way that if somebody asked me to make a career out of being a virtual performer, I don't think I would ever be able to do it.
You won't last a year.
A year is too much. I wouldn't. I don't think I would. Because I'm someone who thrives on that exchange that happens between the audience and the performer and
the band.
The band, yes.
Yeah. How do you define success or failure of a show or a performance?
Right. So there's another musician that I really respect and admire who said that, why do you take up a gig? You take it up for 3 reasons: the money, the material, or the music. Like literally 3 M's, right? The musicians, sorry. So maybe you don't really enjoy the material that you're going to play, but then if it's paying well, and as a musician, yes, sometimes you make that choice of doing a gig that you don't really want to do, but it's paying the bills, and you're able to bring value to that performance. There are others where you do it because you find that the material is challenging and you learn something out of it. And then there's the other where you like the people that are a part of it, and it just becomes a community thing that you enjoy the experience. There has to be some motivation. So I think I try, and with time I've tried to segment the gigs that I get into one of these 3. And if it's hitting at least one of these check boxes, then it's a success.
Okay.
Because I remember going to this person saying that, I've got this gig, I'd really love for you to play, but I feel bad asking you because the money is not great. And he said, yeah, but it checks these other 2 boxes for me, so I'm happy to do it. It's a success for me. And that really made sense, right?
Okay.
So it's very rare that one gets to check all of these 3 boxes on a gig, right?
Yeah. What do you think is the essence of performance? If you can summarize it in a line or 2.
So for me, performance gives me that liberty and freedom and acceptance in a way to be a certain character or persona on on stage. And that, I think, is the most powerful privilege that a performer has. For me, that is the essence. To be in a place where you're able to carry a story or a message or a narrative that can influence the lives of everybody around you at that moment is just incredibly powerful.
Okay. One word to describe your feeling of being on stage.
Magic.
Beautiful. Thank you, Sharanya.
Thank you, Aravind, for having me. I think this whole conversation was really a chance for me to introspect as well and think about what my values are and where I want to be, and really just go through this whole journey of being an artist.
That's wonderful. Maybe like 100 episodes down the line, you can come back again and
Yes, I would love
see how
to.
it has changed.
Yes, maybe things have changed then too.
Thanks. Thank you very much for listening. I really hope you enjoyed the show. There'll be new episodes every Tuesday, so don't forget to come back.